Hey guys, quick little thing to separate the little intro to part one. I know you're used to more heavily edited videos. This is one that I could not do super heavily edited. So we're going to do this more akin to a classic video with a few exceptions. Yeah, enjoy the video. Bye. Part 1, The Birth of the Chicken. Section 1, An Empire in Ruins. The year is 2005, and the Walt Disney Company is in shambles. Failed acquisitions, personnel crises, and box office bombs haunt the halls of the company's top executive, Michael Eisner. When he first arrived at Disney, Michael had been the herald for change and modernization at the company, but where it lay, the Mouse House had been held under his cold, unrelenting grip, and Eisner stands as a hallmark of unchecked and ambitious failure. What makes 2005 different for him compared to his other years at Disney was that this is the year that everything comes crumbling down for him. Section 2, the early 2000s of animation. Okay, so the millennium's turned over and we've entered the 2000s. Feature animation has entered a new era. Previously in the series, we went over one major falling out that Disney wound up having that left them in a bad shape. Specifically, the falling out of Michael Eisner and Jeffrey Katzenberg. Technically, they still had a distribution deal with Pixar, but things were going rocky around 2005. Instead, though, the most successful things in animation were coming from Jeffrey Katzenberg and DreamWorks Animation, and it was Shrek. 3 years ago, I made an entire Shrek retrospective, or a Shrek-rospective, if you will, but the success of these movies can't get taken for granted. Shrek was the fourth highest grossing film of 2001, and won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature over Pixar's Monsters, Inc., showing in a singular motion that DreamWorks wasn't just playing with the big boys now, they were the big boys now. But jumping a mere 3 years later to 2004, Shrek 2 becomes the highest grossing film of the year and nearly grosses $1 billion at the box office. And I want to list a few films that Shrek 2 beat in the yearly box office: Shark Tale, The Passion of the Christ, Spider-Man 2, The Incredibles, and Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. But on top of this, Shrek 2 marks the first time in human history where Disney didn't have the highest grossing animated film of all time. It beat a record set by Finding Nemo and would only lose the title 6 years later in 2010 to Toy Story 3. It's also the animated films that have held the title for the longest in the 21st century, and it's only topped in length of its reign by Snow White and The Lion King. That seems like a lot already, but there's more details that build this beast. Shrek was also the breaking point that led to the birth of the modern animated franchise. Studios were now able to develop competing films to Disney, and while some people did it before, they were actually able to hold some success now, and that changed the game. I talked about this a little bit in my very first retrospective ever, my video on Ice Age. Now, how was Disney doing? Section 3. Oh no. Disney feature animation was themselves having a bad few years. They released 8 films in just about 5 years, and all but one of them, Lilo and Stitch, were either commercial or critical failures. So, quickly the studio that was once defining the culture was not defining the culture anymore, and instead the two studios that had legitimate bones to pick with Disney, Pixar and DreamWorks, were defining it. When you are the studio that's racing behind the times, you have to see what you can do to properly recover. And when you don't have the proper resources, people, brand, or time to compete with your rivals, you have to work with the cards in your deck. The next card in Disney's deck was a little film directed by Mark Dindal. Section 4, Mark Dindal and the Egg of the Chicken. Previously in this retrospective, we went into a bit of the career of Mark Dindal, who's the director of Chicken Little. In summary, Mark Dindal's a very talented director who knew how to play the 2D animation game like a fiddle. He'd been with Disney since Fox and the Hound, left to direct Cats Don't Dance, and returned for Emperor's New Groove. He excels at creating fun animated films and knows how to create a tight and engaging animated ensemble. In spite of Emperor's New Groove not being a success, he would pitch Disney a film adapting the folktale Henny Penny. In Dindal's version, it would take place at a summer camp and star an anxious female chicken who goes to summer camp to reduce her anxieties and repair her relationship with her father. Eisner would accept this pitch with the caveat that they make Henny Penny into a boy, hence Chicken Little. The industry standard, especially at Disney, was that girls would see projects led by boys, but boys won't see projects led by girls. For more information, I recommend exploring the TV trope, The Girl Show Get Out. So in the original pitch also, Chicken Little would overhear his counselor turning on the town and have to overcome it, but the entire camp counselor angle would be dead by the turn of 2003. 2003 sees David Staunton take over Disney's film division and make a full transformation of it. 2D was out, 3D was in, and the projects Chicken Little and Meet the Robinsons were gonna be the test subjects. He also requested the threat of the film change, and also for the setting to change, and just major rewrites all around. This would bring a more cynical edge to the film to bring it in line with contemporaries like Shrek. The film wound up releasing finally on October 30th, 2005. Part 2, Chicken Little. Section 1, a summary, I guess. If you've been watching the series so far, you've noticed that I tend to talk more around a film than about it. I tend to be the person who loves to see how things come together and look at who made the mess and why, rather than think about how big or weird the mess itself is. But I'm not gonna lie, I think Chicken Little itself is one of those misunderstood Disney films. And that's not me saying that the film isn't bad, because it is. It's actually really bad, but in a way where I find it absolutely fascinating. A lot of people talk about and meme how bad Shark Tale was, and I never really connect with Shark Tale in that way, and kind of like it to an extent, but Chicken Little scratches the itch for me. So, without further ado, I'd like you to sit back, relax, and listen to me explain to you the plot of Chicken Little. Our story begins with a piece of alien spacecraft landing on the head of a small child named Chicken Little. Chicken Little claims the sky is falling by yanking on the town fire bell. The town stirs into commotion, and when they find out that it was Little who had the incident, they're frustrated. When gathered, Chicken Little gets hit by a falling acorn and can't properly think from the stress, so his dad, Buck, claims that he got hit by an acorn, and the town accepts his father's truth as the narrative and decides that they are never going to let this middle school child live it down. A year later, and Chicken Little is still the talk of the town, to the point where they're making a movie, but is it just me who finds the absurdity of this hilarious? The first real opening scene in our present time of the movie is just Buck and Little talking in a car about everything they've made about him in a way that feels very ad-libbed. Like, I think a lot of the banter was definitely done in the booth for this film. With its production history, this doesn't really surprise me. One of the other parts I find funny, Buck just drops the kid off at the bus stop as if he couldn't drive him to school. We move next to the one little slip scene, and I'll be pretty real, I think the entire sequence is actually pretty good. The Bare Naked Ladies song is actually really good, and probably the song I remember most from the film. And there's a lot of small but weak world building things set up here. Like, I know people don't like this because they find it a mean-spirited film, and that's kind of established 7 minutes in. If you absolutely don't want to watch a mean-spirited film, you can leave, you can turn it off, you can go. I mean, like, if you're in a movie theater, like, dang, there goes your money. But we're in the digital age now with, like, Disney Plus, and the existence of Disney Plus makes it so you can turn Chicken Little off if you find it mean-spirited. Yeah, but the film's still mean-spirited. Yeah. Another thing, the sequence does a good job at showing how Chicken Little is extremely crafty and using his size to his advantage, and I think there's something kind of sweet with that. One thing I noticed when I rewatched this film like 5 times for this video is he's okay with himself. Like, the thing about films and writing character conflict, it's usually either external or internal. A lot of the best story lines for your main characters come from inside the character and them wanting to change something within themselves or overcoming something. Aladdin has to stop lying, you know, or Beast has to grow as a person. It's how the main emotional arc happens. The thing with Chicken Little, and I think it's closer to some other ones that are a little lesser in the canon for this, Chicken Little, his big thing that he needs to grow is to learn to talk to his dad about closure. But the funny thing is, it's putting this pressure on a middle school chicken child, yeah, he's a child still, and not the grown man who can't talk to his kid because his wife died and they can't do emotions. I think that we should not be blaming Chicken Little movie. Blame the cluck. Blame the clucker. The clunker, the cluck. Cluck. Blame cluck. Blame cluck. Blame cluck. This video has been brought to you by the Blame Cluck Association. Naturally. Okay. So So Chicken Little then finds himself locked in his locker because the janitor locked him in. And then we're introduced to the 4 major side characters from the school. Abby, Runt, Fish, and Foxy. To basically go down them, Abby is kind of the ugly duckling character, but she's also one of the best characters in the movie. Like, there's a lot of hate that's given towards the fact that she has a crush on Chicken Little, but it's established enough early in the gym scene that's not much of an issue for me. But she's also, like, the one brain cell in the cast, right? Because her friend group's freaking insane. Man, this video is getting very off the rails as far as my audio goes. Probably because I have a really cool editor like Graceland. But no. So, Abby is, like, one of the only people in the cast who's trying to, like, keep things stable. And she's voiced by Joan Cusack, who voices, she voices Jessie in Toy Story. Also, in the another thing is that Chicken Little is voiced by Zach Braff, who is very iconic for his role in BoJack Horseman and nothing else. You know, I just remember BoJack Horseman. That's how it goes. No. Then there's Runt, who's the clumsy pig played by Steve Zahn. Fish out of water, who only fish species, but he exists out of there. I guess he just gets to fish around. He's used for references mainly. He gets kidnapped by aliens, and that's a big thing that happens in the Chicken Little verse. So, and then there's Foxy, who's like the school's bully and like star of their like baseball team. Yeah. So to go in, Chicken Little and Abby have a talk that establishes the main goal of the film. Chicken Little needs to talk to his dad to get him to understand him. But the funniest thing within this is because Chicken Little is an awkward teenager, he never actually successfully takes the talking approach. It's a Buck issue. I have this written in the script. I kind of did improv monologue on it earlier, guys. So, like, yeah. In gym class, they're doing dodgeball. It's popular versus unpopular. Abby gets knocked out by Foxy. Chicken Little tries to stand up for himself and his friends. Well, mainly for Abby, which is fun too. And he gets lobbed to the ceiling where he falls into the fire alarm, triggering it and reaching a school-wide calamity. The principal's mad. So Buck, instead of deciding to stand up for his son, tells Chicken Little, "Don't get noticed." He's a bad dad. Buck collects a bad dad, guys. We find out what's caused the drift of Buck and Little's relationship is the death of Little's mom, Chloe, and both parties want something to repair in their relationship. But the sequence is also set to 5. Or fighting is all I know. It's fine. Yeah. We get to the baseball part of the movie. Arguably, one of the most infamous things about Chicken Little is that it's a baseball movie. He's neglected all season by the school's team before he winds up having the game deciding up where, miracle of miracles, he winds up defying the odds and making it in, winning Okie the season. Side thing, I find it funny here because the film script is in this weird limbo with ages where they feel established as middle schoolers, but the whole town treats this baseball game like it's high school baseball, right? Like, I think that's a really funny thing about Chicken Little's world building, right? That the entire town's honor is not settled on a high school baseball game. That's still weird, but it makes a little more sense. It's settled on a middle school baseball game. Crazy. So Little and Buck finally bond a bit, and then it's over surface level accomplishment more than any deeper connection. Parts of the sky fall into Little's room. This time, wanting to avoid more issues with his dad, he dodges it and calls his friends. The group goes to investigate the whole alien ship. Fish gets taken by a piece of the sky to the alien ship, and they leave the ship pursued by aliens. So Chicken Little once again rings the bell. No aliens are present, so he's considered a laughingstock again. The group finds the young alien Kirby, who's just a little guy, and then the aliens invade Earth looking for Kirby. Rems, it's the end of the world as we know it blasts. Little goes to save the world. Buck follows him. The two finally have something resembling closure in the movie theater. Buck agrees to help Little get Kirby back to the aliens. They use the fire truck to get them to the town hall. They climb to the top. The aliens abduct them. The aliens are Kirby's parents who are doing everything to rescue him. The misunderstanding is cleared up. Everything's restored. Chicken Little is regarded as a hero and gets a Hollywood movie made about his life. Yeah. There's a lot here. There's a lot about Chicken Little to discuss here. Let's crack this egg, shall we? Section 6, presentation. A film's presentation boils down to everything about it. Acting, art, music, even bits of a film's writing. Your film can have a bonkersly bad story, but if you have an impressive presentation, you can win people to your side and create a net positive. But Chicken Little is kind of a mess on most conceivable levels. And I figured instead of going for this like long diatribe describing what makes it mess, the funny of the joke is, no, we're not doing that today. Let's just do some scattershot critiques of the presentation. Chicken Little's not funny. It's not really new or anything, and it feels like bottom of the barrel bits that you could do in any bit of the movie. For example, random product placements, such as the one that gets ragged on most is the characters randomly watching Indiana Jones and not some Chicken Little version, like actual human Indiana Jones. And it's a joke that goes cheap to use reference humor and hope that watching Indiana Jones and seeing the disaster from the film happening in real life is funny. I think the weirder one, though, is in the climax. Turkey Lurkey offers the aliens a Tic Tac, and it's one of those references that feels for nothing. Like, how do these animals know Tic Tacs? Are Tic Tacs currency in Chicken Little society? Am I currency in Chicken Little society? But also the film's art and animation. The film's kind of notable for me for having some of the ugliest polish in a CGI film. Like, something feels missing in post here, and it just feels washed out, and it's kind of ugly, and it's very ugly, and it's ugly, and it's ugly, and it's so ugly, and it's 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 ugly, and This is my brain on 5 watch-throughs of Chicken Little. Soundtrack wise, there's some songs that feel fine here. One's Little Slip is fun. This film's basically immortalized end of the world as we know it for me, but things just feel all over the place, and the soundtrack feels like the music Disney had at home. I don't think any of these songs are really bad, just the soundtrack feels like an unheated stew, or in this case, an unheated chicken stew. There's so much more to say about this film's mess, but I'm gonna move on for now because I don't feel like talking about random things that are bad about Chicken Little for the rest of my life. I don't want to do that. It sounds miserable. Why would I do that to myself? Why would that be my life? I wonder for the reasons that I wonder. Life is a mystery. I am its history. Chicken Little is a child. That is all. Sorry. That's a funny ramble, hopefully. Yeah. Moving on. Part 4, ramifications. This is basically going to be a section where I go through and discuss what happened after the chicken each way. So, first of all, commercial. The weirdest thing when we analyze Chicken Little is the fact that Chicken Little financially succeeded. While critics were brutal to the film, and we'll get more to that, it was their best performing film since Dinosaur for Disney at the box office. And it got to the point where we were 2 decisions away from getting Chicken Little as a franchise. First of all, there's lost media for what would have been Chicken Little 2, dealing with Little getting into a love triangle between Abby and an Italian sheep transfer student. I'm good, thanks. But also, there exists a pilot script for a TV show that could have gotten made until it lost to Phineas and Ferb. And guys, I gotta confess something to you, okay? You can listen for a second, right? You can hear my confession. This was all my fault. And I think this is also kind of a rumor. Like, we don't know the undergoings of the Disney TV process at the time, but like timing wise, it checks out because Phineas and Ferb came out in 2007, and that kind of makes sense for when we would have gotten like the TV version of it with things in the pipeline. But yeah, there. Section 2, critical. So critics are brutal. 36% on Rotten Tomatoes, brutal. And yeah, it's deserved, but also it's the worst score for any Disney film. Disney was going through a rough patch, so critics didn't really have empathy for the film. I mean, like, look, the last time Disney was like, hey, watch our art, it was Home on the Range. I wouldn't have wanted to watch Home on the Range. Which, yeah, no, but speaking of the film's existence, I guess, yeah. Let's talk about the film's director, Mark Dindal. Chicken Little is a film that stopped Mark Dindal from directing films for 19 years. That's the gap between Chicken Little and his next film, the Garfield movie. I admire Mark Dindal greatly. I think he's a fantastic filmmaker who has some great choices, as he was able to show in both Emperor's New Groove and Cats Don't Dance. But, the dude's career has definitely been changed. Like, look, the best way I can put it, right? There's something that's gotta mess up your head a little bit. Not in a life-shattering way or anything. When your good films flop at the box office and your bad films don't. Like, can you imagine that, guys? Just imagine working your whole life as some sort of artist, and everything that you care about dies, and everything you don't care about, or you still care about, but it's not as good, lives. I would be fuming if I was Mark Dindal at that point. I would have gone off the deep end. That's why you guys, if I ever make like a film, have an obligation to make it commercially succeed for my own mental health. Joking. No worries, you're fine. You don't have to do that. I think. But so other human being that we've been following, Michael Eisner. So fun thing, Michael Eisner was already on his way out the door of Disney, but this would be the first Disney film to be released in a post-Eisner at Disney World, because Bob Iger was taking over the company, and the leadership at the actual animation studio was soon to be transferred to Lasseter, who would interfere much more in Meet the Robinsons and Bolt, and the rest became history. Needless to say, with all these rambles, this is a big change for the company. It's the end of the Eisner administration. I was originally planning for this video to have some detailed section about how Michael Eisner got fired, but I'm realizing that's just gonna probably be made later down the line. It's interesting. It's very interesting. Don't think I got the time frame to do it because the video is supposed to come out in 4 days from when I'm recording this. Yay. Part 5, Hatched. So, you're probably wondering, why am I celebrating Chicken Little on its 20th anniversary of all the movies? And well, dude, Chicken Little is kind of this weird case where it's been there for so many things. The follow to the animation, the trouble with Pixar, the career of Mark Dindal, and most importantly is its connection to the end of Michael Eisner's career at Disney. Chicken Little sits on an apex of so many of these events that have been shaping the animated film industry in the early 2000s, and its failure marks the real crack in Disney, right? Like, Disney was leaking before with several flops and critical failures. Chicken Little is the result of collective actions that lead to the ultimate failure of Walt Disney feature animation of this decade. The art that we artists make through tragedy wind up having the most tragic circumstances bleed into its picture. Art is the embodiment of what made it, and while other 2000s Disney films are rough, Chicken Little really is the centerpiece of all these messes together. I mean, think of it this way. The Katzenberg rift never happens, Shrek never happens. No Shrek means we get a different Chicken Little. But this string of misfortunes and mistakes that befall Chicken Little as well as Disney resulted in the movie Chicken Little being Disney's one little slip. Hi, this is my actual unscripted ramble. So the process of making Chicken Little, Disney's One Little Slip is the official name of the video. It has been also filled with lots of chaos and trying to get everything together. And you're seeing the finished video, which is way too more exciting, and you should be so proud of yourself for watching. I don't know. It's so weird, right? I wanted this to be this kind of apex of the series, but I've realized that the Eisner era is something that there's a lot more to than what I could do with this. I think this video, I like this video. I think it's turned out well, but at the same time, I think it's not the finale of sorts to me visiting this era. I originally had plans to make 3 videos, then I had plans to make 5 videos, and then I had plans to make 6 videos. Actually, the end goal was 7. 7 videos I wanted to make in this series. And what's turning out is that this initial project or wave of these was 5 videos. You're going to see another video later down the line going into the crazy lore of Iago and how Iago is an interesting character in the Disney pantheon. But bam, you got Chicken Little. I got Chicken Little. The universe got Chicken Little. Yeah. I should probably explain, like, I actually, oddly enough, have a net positive opinion of this movie, which is weird. Like, it's bad. There's bad filmmaking on display here. But the nostalgia goggles have not worn out for this one. It's a film where, when this film came out, when I was as old as, when this movie came out, I was like 4 years old. My first movie in theaters was like Piglet's Big Movie in like 2003. But I think I visibly remember going to see Chicken Little in theaters and the vibes of it all. Right, there's something of a memory that you have when you're 4 and you go to the movie theaters, because when you're 4 and you're going to the movies, it's so rare. You're just going with like your parents, that's all. But I don't know, you know, it's weird, you know, and I just wanted to go and formally revisit this for Chicken Little. So guys, thank you for watching my video, Chicken Little, Disney's One Little Slip, and I'll see you soon. I think next month is the return to Rankin Bass. So yippee, whoosh, bye.